Dan has a new record out.
I'm not interested in perfection. Brent Mason was this massive presence. It was the same thing I experienced with Steve Lukather. I'll find a way to get Led Zeppelin into country music.
How do you get that perfect 80s chorusing guitar sound?
Go. Let's figure it out.
That's great.
That's badass, right?
That's great.
I even like that.
Today's episode is sponsored by Gator Cases. Guitarists, like any other musician, value the advantages of proper protection for their gear. Guitars, amps, effects, and accessories all need safe transport and storage. Luckily, Gator's got you covered.
Dann Huff back on the pod for round two. How do we do this? How do we get so lucky? Dan, thanks for...
You want me to answer that question? Is that a question?
Yeah, sure. No, don't answer that. Don't answer
No,
it.
you didn't get lucky.
We didn't get lucky.
There's a need that I have of talking about something. So that's...
Dan has a new record out. When words aren't enough. Dan, why would you make a record at this point in your career?
I like that. That's a loaded question. Let me translate that, Zach. Why, when you're at this ripe, often to the sunset AARP age, would I dangle it out there, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
What gives me the audacity to think I still play guitar?
Yeah, no.
No, I'm just joking,
Come on. Why? No. Why? Tell me why. Was it a creative itch you had to scratch? Did you want something for your kids to listen to? Like, why would you make a record now?
Yes, that's the answer. I think a couple of things converged at the right time. I've been encouraged for, I would say, decades. I mean, that's how long it takes me to react to something like this. I never thought I thought I'd scratched that itch when I had a band in the end of the 80s. Still playing guitar, and then all of a sudden I got onto this side, job, day gig of producing records, which I never intended to do. And that went really well. It's phenomenal. Everything kind of, a lot of luck, a lot of prep and all that. And so 2 decades and a half into that, it's like I always had a guitar. This is where I do a lot of the record, not the tracks and whatnot, but there's guitars around here. So I can always bring a guitar out and articulate something that I can't hire somebody else to do if it's a pinch, right? So I'm always playing guitar. And on some records I save solos for myself just as kind of the caveat at the end of the record. I get to reward myself, right? But my hands never felt like my hands did when I was growing up. For decades, I'd play 8 to 10 hours a day. And there was just there was a disconnect between just me as a musician. I didn't get into music. Number one, I didn't get into music to produce records. I didn't know that was even a possibility. So it wasn't there. I got into playing in records because I loved recording and I loved the guitar. And if I could pay my rent at my apartment and keep my wife happy,
That was it.
That was it. That was as far as I thought. So everything emanated from that. And then so all of a sudden you hit this point in your life, me in my early 60s, and it was like, yes, I have 5 grandsons, little ones. I'm not that ancient, but I wanted them to have a little something their grandpa did. So that was a little bit of a carrot. I always say that some of the people who encouraged me, relentlessly over a couple decades was Tom Bukovac, dear friend. We do sessions together. He's played on a ton of records for me. Dear friend Mike Reed, who's a Hall of Fame. I hate it sounds terrible to have to always qualify people by their accomplishments, but he's a great songwriter. Let's just say that. He's a great musician, great keyboard player. We're close friends. And for other reasons, he said, you should express yourself. So anyway, that led up to all this. And then abject fear, and here we go.
What did you put out like in the 2000s? Didn't you put out something that was called like Solos, or wasn't there something like that? It's on Spotify.
Oh man, no.
What is that then?
I've never listened to it.
Really?
Just on principle. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to keep names out of it, but when I was 19, or I think I was 19, I was with a Christian band called Whiteheart.
Yeah.
And it was a deal where I guess legally things can be right legally, but that still doesn't mean they're ethically right? So the person, shall we say, that signed me to those contracts, he owned recordings, right? So basically what happened because I asked my friend Gordon Kennedy, he told me what it was. It was excerpts from records that I either played for him or solos, maybe on White Heart Records. He just retooled with recording new tracks for him, and then released it. In my career at that point of my life, I had made kind of a name for myself as a guitar player, and I guess he just figured he'd capitalize on it.
So, but this is the first Dann Huff solo guitar record.
Yeah, there was one song that I played on, and somebody reminded me of this the other day. There's a record. I think it's called The Players or something like that.
Yeah.
That I think was in the I want to say early '90s, and I did one song on it, and that was me.
Okay.
I don't remember the title.
But this is the first album. Dan,
this is it. Yeah.
Dan, how do you write a guitar song when you're standing on? There's so many instrumental guitar records from your heroes like Jeff Beck. So you've got so many influences to pull from. When you sit down to write an instrumental tune like Colorado Creeping, you're sitting in Colorado, I'm assuming. And
No.
no, you weren't.
No.
How do you write this tune though? Like where do you go to write an instrumental guitar tune?
Well, I mean, there's one answer. I'm sitting right here. So
the whole record was written right here.
it was a day. None of these songs had titles. Actually, the irony is that Colorado Creepin' was called song number 1 until I came up with the title. I like alliteration, and I live part-time in Colorado now, and it's where my oldest daughter and son-in-law and one of my newest grandkids live. So that's part of my life. The song felt kind of like it was creeping. There was something weird. It's like creeping just alone. That sounds like a guy with a trench coat in the.
Wait, so how do you write this song though? So what are you messing with? Play me a little bit of this, well, let's hear it. Let's hear a little bit of it.
I mean, what it started with.
What did it start with? Yeah.
I found grooves. I went through libraries, and there's so many.
I'm trying to make my own instrumental guitar record, Dan. Tell me how to do it. How do I write a song?
Well, there's no way. What I did was I found a groove that I liked.
Okay.
And I had elements of that groove. I just put it up, because I know how to produce records. So I had that accessible. And then I'd listen to the groove, and I just, on this one.
That's it.
And why that came out, I have no idea. But it was like, something resonated with that groove. So I recorded that, right? A little bit of rhythm guitar. And then the melody.
How do you get the melody?
I just started, jamming. I don't know how fast that came in that, but I mean, you just start playing like when you jam, right?
Yeah.
That's really what I was doing. I was just jamming. Didn't have any bass, didn't have any other instruments. And so I don't have perfect recollection of that song. It happened in a day, right? So I started recording that. And the idea was I had an amp here that was on loaner, try out an amp. And I think I started it with that blue Strat. I like that blue 59 kind of reissue. Just started playing. And as I'd play, I was making a demo. So record that, and then came up with sections, put in a few fills just to kind of emulate the arc of a song, the dynamics of a song, and like connect the dots. Just one thing came after.
So then the B section in that song is great. It almost sounds like a little Beatlesy or like a little psychedelic kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of with the wah-wah, which I don't have hooked up, but it's
That is such a great lick.
Love the last 3 notes.
Wait, give us that lick a little slower, 'cause everyone's gonna learn this lick. Do it one more time. That's a great lick.
I mean, it's like a 5-year-old could play that, but
What do you mean?
well, I mean, but when you speed it up,
Yeah.
and then I doubled it to give it kind of that. that's kind of this song, I don't know where this one comes from. I think as this whole record was, I decided, as opposed to, we were talking about some great guitar players that are on the scene. Nowadays, we're sitting there in one of your crew. I don't know if you mentioned his name.
Paul. We're here with Paul Avram right now. He's helping us out.
Paul
Amazing
Avram,
player.
Paul Avram sitting here a few minutes ago, and it's like I'm looking at his playing. Oh shit, there we go. The whole new generation of guitar players, and we were talking about Guthrie, who I don't know any of these guys, but I'm aware of them too.
Guthrie Govan, not Guthrie Trapp, who's also on that list. Yeah.
Just everywhere. So
yeah.
So we're guitar players, right? You're a guitar player.
Yeah.
We have a little of that. We're all competing, right? What's he doing? Can I do that? I can do that better, whatever. Or I can't do that. And then I'm humbled, shamed. I thought, I can't do that. I have some chops, but in comparison with all these guys that are playing nowadays, it's like I'm not there. So I have to think, who am I? Who I am is the 70s, who I grew up when I was a teenager listening to Jeff Beck, Larry Carlton, Al Di Meola, Lee Ritenour, and then all of a sudden when I was 19, I hear this guy who's like almost my age, maybe a couple years older, Steve Lukather. All that and more, right, is my backdrop. So I just thought I didn't go back and listen to a lot of stuff because I thought I don't want to be derivative. But it's kind of this peripheral memory of what I listened to. And so this song came out, has a little bit of Jeff Beck, has a little bit of a lot of things on this song. And all the other songs kind of emanated from thoughts that kind of center around some other records,
Play a little bit of it on the recording. Can we just hear a little bit of it?
Yeah.
Play like, I don't know, just a second of it.
So shall I play it from the beginning? You stop me when you...
Just play it.
Okay, yeah. That was the first thing I played.
That was it.
I just, yeah.
Why you got Jerry Rowe to play drums on it? Because he's the best?
Jerry, well, that's a long story. I meant to have a lot of people playing this record.
You had to use the same rhythm section the entire time.
Well, that's because I can't talk and listen to myself.
Yeah, hold on.
So you get
Listen to this.
Really simple. About nuance, right? It's just my favorite bit right here. The vibrato.
Okay, why'd you get Jerry? Why'd you use the same rhythm section the whole record?
Yeah, I work with so many great musicians. And so the original idea was book a couple days. I was going to take my demos in. These were just demos, and they basically had a rhythm guitar part because I needed some accompaniment. And I got Mark Hill playing bass, and these Jerry and Mark I had just worked some sessions with, and there was something that they did on some piece of music that made me connect them with the possibility of kind of the 70s. I wanted small drums. I wanted, very contained, not a lot of ambience, more 70s than 80s, And so the idea, just see what these guys do on the songs. I didn't have even a record company. I was just paying for it at that point. And just financing because I had nobody telling me what to do. And we got in there and they had done their homework. I'd sent them all these demos. And the demos, to be fair, were very structured. The composition was it was a very accurate picture of what these things were to be. My idea was, you take it, listen to it, and I want to hear you come out in the middle of it, in the midst of it. And so they just ended up, in 2 days, pretty much the record was done.
So you guys go and you track for 2 days and that's it. Does everybody love playing on this record? Because they go, this is a different environment. Everybody works with you with an artist doing a country session. Now they get to come in and cut loose. Like, that's got to be a blast for them, right?
They articulated that. That felt nice. Because again, you got to remember, I write this music. It happened over about 2 weeks. I just kept coming in here and just a new song would kind of manifest. I wrote songs a long time ago, so it's not that much of a mystery. But when you have Tom Bukovac asked me, did you have all these ideas floating around like little pieces? Because I think that's what he does, you know. And I said, I had none. It was just groove led to riff or a melody, and then kind of just one thing kind of was added to the next. And you know, and I'm a song guy. I mean, so I've been a record producer, so I have this idea. What helped me, even as a studio guitar player, was that I see songs as shape, tension release, all these things that I want to hear in every part of the song, not just the solo, but the what I'd call a verse, the A section of song, the B section. You just want these things to feel like you're hearing a complete story, and you kind of know just internally if it comes to it. I'm really big on composition. That's the thing that Jeff Beck worship, shall we say. He was so much about melodies and then interpretation of melodies. You go see a Jeff Beck show, and it's like you don't have to be a fan of instrumental music. You get fed as much as you go hear somebody sing a song. So anyway, but
wait, I'm trying to understand though, like this one lick. I don't want to obsess over it, but the one lick on Colorado Creeping at the end of the B section that you just kind of shredded.
Yeah.
Do you come to that because is that a lick you've played a million times somewhere else, or do you hear that lick in your head and then try to figure out how to play it on your fingers, or you go, I want something flashy. I'm just gonna let my fingers fly and see what happens. How do you come up with that specific lick? Where does it come from?
Well, where does it come from? I mean,
or in general,
we all have finger shapes and things that we do. I mean, you know, we can call those limitations, or we can call them just our personality. So that fits within the realm of what I would play. I mean, was I thinking consciously? Okay, let's say I was thinking consciously or subconsciously. I needed something to end the statement of that chorus or beat, whatever you want to call that section, and I wanted something, you know, like
bit of flash.
When you're seeing a band and all of a sudden pop, pop, you know, those kind of moments, that sounded good to me. So did that lick just arrive like it is? No, probably not. I probably tried all these different manifestations of that lick and ended with that one. It felt right. So, but there's no, you know, there's nothing behind the curtain. There's no magic sauce, at least not with this guitar player.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not too proud to sit and fumble with something until it's right. Sometimes, you know, stuff drops out of the sky and you go, I can't do that again. But this whole project is a combination of all that through the lens, I think, of just, I want composition at the end of the day. I want composition in the solos. I don't give what I would say is rock solid advice to people who ask it, because I always feel that I don't even know.
What's the number one thing that people ask you?
Like, well, when guitar, okay, there's a guitar player conversation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. What's the number one thing?
The one that irritates the hell out of me.
What is it? So everybody knows not to.
How long did it take you to get that? No, it's a fair question. I mean, everybody is they want to know. I wanted to know too. Does this shit just fall out of the sky? You know what? You know, but I thought about, even when I was young, because I would be playing these shows and people would code for guitar players is when they're kind of impressed with what you're doing, but they don't want to say that. They'll go, I like your sound. Well, do you like what I played? You know,
yeah.
But I always got this, especially at like GIT, if I would speak over there, you know, I mean, how long did it take you to get that solo? And I said, okay, you know, some of them I remember, sometimes they come very quickly. Sometimes they take all day. When you see a great piece of art, do you go to the painter or the sculptor and say, how long did it take you to paint that?
I feel like I might.
I
might ask him
well,
that.
that's okay. But I mean, the artist is going to say, as long as it takes to get what I'm looking for. So to me, the analogy holds true. It's like music is like, you know, you got this piece of stone there. Well, you know, great sculptors can see what they're going for, but it doesn't mean one hammer crack and that thing shows itself, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think if there's anything, and this maybe is not advice, but it's an experience that I've had a whole lifetime of, right? Don't be afraid of not getting there, and pay attention to your instincts, because you kind of know when you're saying what you want to say.
What do you mean? Don't be afraid of not getting there, though. What isn't that what everyone's
That's
afraid of?
That's code for don't be afraid to make a lot of mistakes. and don't be afraid of not being perfect. In this era, especially, I didn't grow up with any kind of social media or cell phone just by nature of when I was born. And being able to, in anonymity or relative anonymity, practice, hone my skills, and totally make mistakes, fall on my proverbial musical ass. Not the world didn't know. So you get up the next day and do it again. I know. And I think there's something about that ability. Nowadays, everybody's got a phone at your show or whatever. And I think, I'll just say how I feel. It's intimidating because I feel like I can't be who I am, because who I am is going to involve some flubs, especially if I'm going for stuff. I mean, and that's okay, right? I mean, it's because ultimately you got to say, this is about music. This is about expression. This is not about me appearing perfect.
I'm so afraid, though, when I go out with a band or I'm doing whatever, I'm so afraid of making a mistake because I think I'm going to get fired. I'm not even thinking about the social media. I just think if I make too many mistakes, they're going to fire me.
Well, okay. Now that's a fair point. And when you're hired for somebody, your responsibility is to internalize that part and play it accurately, because it's not about you. It's about the act that you're playing for.
Right.
Right. So I was a session player. That's a different rule. Now, when we're talking about, your first question is, why would I make a record right now? All of a sudden, those rules they're not a part of this process. So I'm thinking differently for that. So there's a reason, you want to practice. You don't want to just be, I mean, when I was really young, I got told when I was growing up here in the South by a lot of musicians in this is paraphrase, all that technical stuff, that speed, that's bullshit. And I'm sitting there going, well, I'm a little suspect. Like, probably you can't do that. And, I'm not going to listen to that. I was a kid.
You love that. You love that people didn't like the speed and that you could do it, right? That made you feel like that was your thing.
Well, I liked it. Yes, I'm sure that came into, but also think about it. We're talking right now, right? You have a different tempo than me. You're way quicker than me. But how would it be if both of us just spoke like this?
Not
same words, right? There's inflection, there's energy, there's emphasis, there's accent.
Yes.
I mean, it's like, so the same thing as in music. I mean, so you want facilities enough to be so you can articulate what you're doing, right? So, and what's your threshold? That's the question. I mean, ultimately, there's two things. When you're hired as a professional musician, perform it, especially as a sideman. If you're trying to make an artistic statement, a statement, then the question is, who are you? And that all comes into it. So I'm a little bit of a lot of things. And that's why I'm really thrilled, because I feel like my chops are getting kind of back up to where they were, when I was in my younger days. I don't like to obsess too much on age, but I think even that, like Paul and I were even talking about, he's 27, right? Yeah. And I mean, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay, so man, those are the best memories. Well, they're the best memories of the 20s, right?
But do you know what Paul and I are thinking right now?
What's that?
We're thinking, oh my God, we're in our late 20s, and when you were in your early 20s,
doesn't matter.
Your career was exploding.
Doesn't matter.
As a guitar player.
Doesn't matter. It's just there was an opportunity, and everything conspired to it was there. I had some luck. I also delivered, right? So all of it exists. But it's this, there's no race. I mean, who's to say? Some people I know make it. Well, Keith Urban and I were talking about this years and years ago when we were working together all the time. And he, he's very philosophical. Keith's one of the smartest guys I know. And he didn't really make his big splash until he was 36. And okay, so he missed all those years in his 20s where a lot of guys are making hay. But there's also something to that experience and that age. The time was right. So 29, come on. That's like, here's the funny thing. You call 15 young, right? You to see 15-year-olds or even 20-year-olds now, you're going, oh, you're just a kid, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That always extends. So to me, this is the funny thing. When people would call me a kid when I was in my mid-40s, I was going, I'm in my mid-40s.
I've been doing this forever.
Well, But to somebody who's 55, you're a kid. Now I meet, this should make you feel great, right? I meet people that are in their 50s and I'm going, come on. I try not to say you're a kid, but you're young. There's always somebody older. There's always somebody younger. There's somebody who's going to make it earlier. But the encouraging thing, if you can think about this, it's just to go where you're going. I would say my experience is the journey is what excites me. Arriving at a destination, it's never what you anticipate. And the beautiful thing about this, like this piece of wood and strings, we never get where we're going. Maybe there's a few people that do. I don't. I haven't. But I wake up excited and I'm still playing the guitar, and making music that I actually love. What can you ask from life more than that?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, my favorite song on the solo record, Giant Freefall.
Yeah.
This one feels like the most 80s inspired.
Right.
Or can we pull that up and play a little bit of it? Starts out with these great big drums.
Yeah.
How do we pull up? Can we listen to a little bit of it?
Yeah. Here's a funny story about this one, right? So we didn't track this song. We didn't have time. And I'd asked Jerry and Mark, what was the other song? I gave him a jump ball. It's right. There were 9 tracks and then one I just did by myself. We got 8 in 2 days, so 4 a day, which is a lot more than I expected. And I asked him, there was a shootout between this and there's a song called Indefatigable.
Right before
Strut.
it. Yeah.
Okay. I always call it Indefatigable, but it's Indefatigable. And they chose that one. And I thought this was a cooler song.
I think this song is great.
So, but we had that much time, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just put 9 songs on the record. Why? There's no rule. And I could never get this song out of my head. And so all I had was the demo, and tracking was over. And I think on that song, I actually played a little bit of keyboard bass just to have a little bottom end. And then I thought, Jerry has a studio at his house. And at this point, I didn't want to do another day of tracking and all that kind of stuff. I said, can I just send you the song? The drums were very defined. He said, yeah. He sent me back 3 or 4 passes of that, and that's it.
That's it.
And then the only one, the worst bass part on the record, that's me playing bass on that one. Because I just wanted it to be done. I mean, I knew all the licks, It's just a guitar with lower strings. I don't play it like Mark, but I probably should have sent it to him too. But anyway, yeah, I liked the song, and I felt like I needed a little bit of the 80s reference because a lot of that's a big part of my career. But isn't it funny that my sweet spot was 75 to 80? Then that's when I was a teenager listening to records. So this record has become more of that kind of just expression. And if I do another one, maybe it'll be more 80s. Maybe a shred kind of, or my version of shred.
I think that would be a great record too. Like an 80s Dan shred record. Sounds like Giant, no vocals, you're just shredding.
With the emphasis on no vocals, yeah.
No, I would take the vocals.
No.
You did.
That would have.
Okay. This is Giant Freefall.
Yeah, and I named it. This was probably song 5, and all these songs were just number 1, number 2, and I had the most daunting thing was actually having to come up with titles.
Isn't that?
I had no idea, but then you listen to music and you go, no, that's that. So obviously, Giant was, the band that I played on that probably 5 people bought that record, but a significant part of my life, and I thought I love the Dixie Dregs too. So Freefall, that was I think it was called Freefall, that one of the records.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just play with words, but let's hear it. I gotta learn this part. I love that sound right there. I'll tell you about that. A little bit of Middle Eastern, don't you?
What is that? Like a wad that you half cocked or whatever?
line on it?
Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah. Wait, so what's the how? What were you gonna say? You were just talking about a specific part on it.
No. It just felt like it felt like 80s music to me. That's all it was. But the same process, I basically found a groove. I found that that tom thing, and that's what it felt like.
Dan, last time we spoke, you were talking about how Quincy Jones would ingratiate you in a session and make you feel like you were born to be in the chair. And you say you took a lot away from that. And I feel like you have to accomplish that. Like, you make us feel so comfortable in your studio. How do you do that? How do you make players feel like they were born to be in the chair that they're sitting in at that moment to play for you? Because I've been on gigs where people call you for the gig and they're like, okay, you show up. And they're like, the second you walk in, it feels like they're annoyed at you. And it's like, well, you called me for the gig. Yeah. And that makes the session suck, right? How do you make people feel really good to be in the room?
Well, number one, you make sure that you cast them in what they do best.
Yeah.
I learned that because I played some sessions where I was the last person I would have called to play that. And then on top of that, if you, and this is my producer hat, right? And what I experienced, I've experienced being the wrong call. And then I've seen producers who trust my musicality, and they would help me navigate that I was not the right player. I was obviously the wrong player for that. And they would usually in as many words or whatever, just their body language, they would say, no, you do what you do. And I'm going to find a way to use that. Then all of a sudden it's like you can breathe, because there's nothing worse than realizing that you don't have the facility to do that. And you all of a sudden you tense up, right? I mean, it's like we were talking about your hand. All of a sudden your hands are cold. The sound is too trebly, and everything, you freeze up, right? Well, if somebody's coming at you and going, "Impress me," well, I mean, that's really, make me sound better. The producer saying that, or the artist, as opposed to saying, "No, you're here for a specific reason, and my job is to make sure I get that out of you." There's a big difference. I mean, you still got to do something as a session player. It's not all fun and games. I mean, there's a real level of being able to zig and zag. So, but that, I would say that's it, because I've learned that because I've experienced it both ways. I was humiliated when I was young a couple times. Those were great lessons, and I also saw people like Mutt Lang. I mean, I've used this is such a cliche with me, but I swear to God, that guy could look at that couch and get music out of a couch. He just will wait it out, And what it's saying is that it's like, you've got something to say. Let me find that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if you feel kind of empowered, right? And then all of a sudden you go, okay, yeah, I got something.
How do you, though, like, I picture when you work with someone like Tom, there's got to be such a brotherhood that's probably easy. But if you're working with someone that you don't work with as regularly, how do you get the most out of them, or how do you make them feel comfortable the second they walk into the studio? Like, I have to imagine some people are intimidated coming in and playing for you, right? So how do you get rid of that feeling?
Well, no, I've been told that, and I get it. I mean, I can understand it. I mean, when you're inside your own skin, you're going, really? But that aside, yeah, I get it, because I've felt that. I've been in those shoes, and like what I say is, look, I'm not counting on you to cover everything, because I play guitar, so I'm taking that pressure off you. What I'm more interested in, this is the truth of me, it's like, it's just easy. It's just, I'm interested in what you bring into this thing, because I can't do what you do, right? So as a matter of fact, you do specifically how and I'll give you some feedback, and I'll give you some direction, but please don't try to be me or anything you think.
But will you say that directly to them, or is that an energy? So you'll say to them, so if you sense someone's stressing out playing a part, what do you do as a producer to make the room feel good again?
Just say, in those words or other words, I want you to do what you would do. And again, and there's no harm or fault. What happens, the worst going to happen, you're still going to get paid. So you're going to get paid. But the worst that's going to happen is I'll figure out that I cast you wrongly.
The worst that's going to happen is you never call someone back, though. That's if
now if I called them, I mean, I don't just call people out of the air. You know what I mean, it's like I know why I'm calling somebody, and so I take it as my responsibility. So, and that's just experience, you know. And if it doesn't go well for them, I mean, Rob McNally, you know Rob?
I know Rob really well. Yeah,
you know how freaking great he is.
Yeah.
The first experience we had is me as a producer, and.
You said this story last time. You guys were doing a Beatles session, right?
Okay, good.
And he came on and he was playing very simply. And basically you said...
not Rob. I mean, Rob's just a beast, you know. And he was trying to circumnavigate, you know what? Probably, I'm projecting here. But he's probably what will please Dan, you know?
Yeah.
And there's nothing in that song that he could have done that was gonna like be a wow moment. And it wasn't until later that I discovered him and the depth and all the stuff that he does, you know. It's like, and so even to this day, when we do stuff, it's acknowledged, you know, for whoever I use on guitar, they're there to be themselves. But again, it's an easy thing for me to say because I can play guitar here and it's cheap and easy, you know.
Do you ever have the desire or the ability when you're doing a country session nowadays to obsess over parts the way Mutt Lang did on the recording side? Like you've told about when you were doing Shania Twain, he would go bar by bar.
Yeah.
Every chord would have to be right, everything, and he'd make you play for hours and hours and hours. Do you have the ability to do that in today's environment, or are the timelines too tight and you don't have that kind of time, or do you have that kind of time ever?
Well, I have that kind of time if I'm here.
Yeah.
Budgetarily, no, I don't. But also, I'm not as attracted. I'm attracted to bits of that, but I like somewhere in the middle. I want a little bit of. This was just my Keith Urban years of doing so many records with him, of just wanting to feel a little of the tension of something not quite perfect, something that is possibly going to derail. I like that. There's an excitement about that. Like you just don't know where you're at. There's a little bit. The word that Keith always used, he would say, and this was a great post Mutt Lang. You know, I played for Mutt, right? And so you
played for what? The Keith Urban sessions? Or?
No, I played as a guitar player.
Right. Yeah.
And then as a producer, I had an artist that I was working with who was interested in making really good sounding records, but he was not interested in those records. As a matter of fact, at that stage, he was totally uninterested in that. He was more of a, his whole reference was more punk, right? Even though he was playing country music, he loved punk rock. And that wasn't my experience. So we kind of, we did this a little bit and found our kind of common ground. But I love arrangement, shall we say. And how I get to arrange it, the things, I mean, sound to me is all relationship oriented. That's one thing I learned from Mutt. There are no bad sounds. You just turn them up louder and they become interesting sounds. But the way that sounds in parts and the arc of a song, that's what I'm interested in. And some people think that it's all about mixing and the mixing engineer at the end making it sound good. It's not. It's a combination. But if the right parts are played at the right time, right? I mean, all these things, and it's easy to talk about it, but it's pretty subjective. But that's 90% or 80%, whatever you want to say. I mean, the guys that I have mix my records, they're stunning at what they do. But if I give them something that's not assembled right, meaning it's not about plugins, it's not about microphones in the end of the day. I mean, all that plays into it. But if it's not arranged, like in the old days, way before my time, big band recording, orchestra recording, it was all done 2 tracks live. So you had to mix. There was no mixing. It was mic placement and the way bands played dynamically. They are mixing. So all this plays into this. And the great thing is I've already forgotten what the original question was.
The question was, do you ever have, and I think you answered it, but the question was, do you ever have the luxury to obsess over parts and articulation of parts and things like that?
I can.
The way Mutt Lang would have you do, right?
I can, and the answer is sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. Where I am musically right now, like I love this because this is my promotional side. Because
Go.
Let's talk about my record.
Yeah. Promote it, Dan.
No.
Come on.
But the funny thing is, this is actually true. This is not intended as promotion, but it's just going to sound like it's so tough. As I was doing the record, I had to apply some of my interests now, when I hear music, I'm not interested in perfection. As a matter of fact, I want to hear a little struggle. That appeals to me. And so a lot of the guitar parts that ended up making this, I had no intention of I had the intention of replacing everything.
Really?
Because I had too much reverb on things. Like on that, the I mean, there's so much of that, what's it called? A Blue Moon pedal on it. And I thought, oh God, listen to that. Well, the feel of it was great. And when I came back to replay that stuff, it never sounded as good. Now, I will take it back. I did play the melody on the head of the song, the verse, because I played it. I didn't have a wah-wah pedal at first, and I thought it'd be a nice little contrast with that verby guitar to have a dry wah-wah pedal sound. So, but for the most part, I would say there's 65, 70% of this record was what I intended just to be my guide. And then as I came back, circle around to replay it after I got the drums and bass, I realized there was something of that original intent that I didn't even know I was saying that had that rawness. It wasn't perfect. I don't think you're going to hear any blatant mistakes, but there's some overtones ringing that are wrong. And there's some shit in there. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I had to, if I was being honest with myself at the end of the day, if I heard somebody else's record, that's what I'd want to hear. Me, I'm sitting there going, it's like you're dropping trow. I mean, it's like, no, I don't want anybody to see that. You know? But I thought, if I can't come to that decision, then I'm a just complete puss. And I didn't want to be a complete puss. So there you go.
I think probably the one song you mentioned that's just you, I'm assuming, is It All Belongs, which it's just you on a nylon string guitar.
That was actually written. That's the It's a lot easier to play on the, It's so much easier to play on electric, but I had all this electric stuff, especially when you get into that's that overtone. That's not easy.
Yeah.
I can't talk and I hear. But you hear all the overtones, right? So if I was really concentrating, I'd have to it's like this. Because I'm in D flat.
Not great.
No. So anyway, you can. That is what it is. There you go. There's your audience seeing the.
But how comfortable are you on a nylon string? It's not really clean though on the record.
Well, I had to practice it. I mean, because and some of the fingerings that I could play on the electric because of the cutout didn't exist. But the reason I put it on nylon strings because I needed something different for the rest of the record. And then I thought there's this whole section in the middle where it's is the what is it in D? There's your Def Leppard,
Yeah.
And I didn't have any melody over that. And I thought, well, solo on electric, I could do that. I mean, maybe someday I'd do that.
Yeah.
But I thought, I got this dobro, and I love playing dobro because I'm no.
So you played the dobro on it?
Oh yeah. I'm not really a dobro player, but my friend Paul Franklin, who did play in a song, one of the Paul Franklin, worldwide acclaimed steel guitar player, extraordinary, great friend too. He was the one years ago told me, he said, "Man, on some of these records," because I had called him to play steel and then dobro, he said, "You have a different sensibility," because he heard me. I demonstrated something to him on it, and he said, "Why not you play that?" So I started practicing. At first, I didn't play slide guitar until I was late 30s. I never tried it because I couldn't do it. Went back to some of my early influences, which was Eric Clapton, of all people. And that record, Ocean Boulevard,
oh yeah,
changed
great
my
record.
life.
Yeah.
Oh, that was when I was probably 15. So all those
What's the opening song on the record?
Motherless Children.
Mother's Children.
Yeah.
That's a great riff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember it either. But what stuck with me from that record was his dobro playing, of all things. And, because he's a blues guy, So anyway, again, it was all, the fancy word is juxtaposition. To me, it's tension, with the gut string playing a very kind of pretty melody. What doesn't belong in the room? Probably a dobro, maybe. At least for me, it didn't belong. So I just experimented. I liked how it came out. But the reason I did that was the original song, by the way. I wrote for my wife, and she heard it, and she thought, "Oh, that's nice." You got anything else?
Are you serious?
I'm not joking.
The last song on the record is the one that's, I think is for her. When Words Aren't Enough, the title track of the album.
Yeah.
Is that for your wife, that title? Or no?
It became, she adopted. She likes 70s, like yacht rock music. And that's the closest thing to yacht rock on the record.
This is so hot, Dan. This is why you've been married to the same woman since your 20s, because you're writing them these instrumental songs. You let them pick which one they like. This is what's getting it done, right?
Well, to be fair, all of our life, she said, "Why do you ever write me songs?" And I said, I don't write lyrics. I hate the lyrics.
Who wrote the lyrics in Giant?
Not me.
Really? Who wrote them? I'm sure everybody on the internet knows.
Mark Spiro wrote a lot of them. He was in our band. Mike Brignardello in the band wrote whatever lyrics were written in the band. But that was it. I think Mike was the only guy who could write lyrics. I mean, I would hum. If I wrote a song, I would just sing syllables, and somebody would kind of figure out what I was trying to say. But no, she liked that song better. That real 70s.
Let's hear it. Let's hear a little bit of it.
It's a, which is the major 7 chord.
Yes.
It's just sweet. I mean, it doesn't mean as much unaccompanied because you have to hear the chords. Yeah. But she loves that kind of stuff. So she said, "Can I have that one?" Of course you can have that one.
Right. Okay, wait. I love asking you about a couple specific sessions. Yeah. Okay, this is my favorite thing. So what was the first country session you did? Was it Reba playing with Steve Gibson when you did that album? Do you know, is that you playing on Fancy?
Yeah, that was it was one of the first ones. I don't know if it was the first one, but Tony Brown would bring me in. Reba's always been kind of bi-coastal, shall we say, and I knew her since I was in high school. Ironically enough, she started her career, but Jerry Kennedy, father of my best friend in high school, great guitar player, Gordon Kennedy, you can connect the dots. Anyway, they called me for some reason, and I got here in Nashville. And I was very comfortable in my own skin, comfortable enough to feel extremely uncomfortable when Steve Gibson was playing guitar. And anything that was remotely country, I was devastatingly shy about because I knew nothing about it. And Steve's vocabulary was so phenomenal. And, Steve was also a great rock guitar player, So I knew Steve, when I was growing up, he's not that much older than me, but 5-10 years when you're in high school, that's an eternity, right? So I got there and he had all the best players. Larry London was playing drums. Probably David Hungate, I'm assuming, was on bass, whatever. Steve, I knew what I could do. And that was, that was what we were talking about a moment ago. I realized that I was out of my league in that style of music. And Tony said, "Hey," he said, I brought you in to do what you do. So you just play what you do and we'll cover the rest. That was great. I wish I'd thought of that. But that was one of the first ones. Yeah. And I played on those songs and I found my place in all those recordings.
Do you remember what you played on Fancy? I'm putting you on the spot here.
It was probably the rock, the all that kind of stuff. The slide guitar, that was all Steve Gibson. And I watched him do it on the spot. I was like, jeez, God, I wish I could do that. But I handle all the clean, jangly. No, I don't remember exactly that part. I just remember I heard that song the other day on the radio.
Yeah.
So they found there was a couple more where I was able to integrate more what I would do, But that song, I think I was the guy that was playing those parts. Anything with a little bit of a power type guitar part.
Yeah. I think my favorite Tim McGraw record, front to back, is All I Want, which you played on too, right?
Yes.
We were just talking about that. Yeah. To me, what I love about that record and the guitar playing on it is it kind of is that perfect combination of the chicken pickin' Nashville sound with the kind of session guitar sound of the 80s. And you kind of, I feel like what you're known for is maybe melding those two a little bit in the 90s and maybe early 2000s when you were doing more sessions.
Yeah.
Is that what you thought you were bringing to the table, or is that what you thought your thing was, or what people could call you for?
That's all I could do. I mean, so it's like, we were talking about Brent Mason a minute ago, and actually Paul brought that up because he was studying Brent Mason. Of course, I got to Nashville. I was like, we played a lot of sessions, and we have distinct skill sets, right? Everything that Brent Mason does, I can't do. And he could probably do a lot more of what I do, but I had my thing. I was more of a rocker. I played a lot of rhythm, a lot of kind of skanky rhythm. Well, that was more my thing, and because that's all I did since I was a kid. Somehow we kind of found we were a really good team, and always checking each other out. It was really nice, But I think we both kind of lifted each other above what we could do. I think just that good friendly competition. But so when you're in a town like Nashville, you've got to be able to cover some bases. So Brent Mason was this massive presence. So and it was the same thing I experienced with Steve Lukather in Los Angeles. You've got to cover some of those bases. So I found out how I got a telly. I'll say that. That was one thing I thought I needed to do. When I was with Brent, of course, I just stayed on the Strat. But if I would get called for like Tim McGraw or Clint Black, I was playing a lot for back then, they wanted something a little different because they had heard, Brent was permeating the whole marketplace. So every artist wants their version of that. So I'd learned how to play cleaner. I'd use a compressor or use quite a bit less saturation. That was it. I was playing not always the same licks. I mean, in that Tim McGraw song, you played it for me before this, and yeah, it's kind of like my understanding or my connection would be more through Mark Knopfler, that type
Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits, yeah.
Yeah, I mean so we each kind of try, like we were talking about, like playing slide guitar. It's like Jerry Douglas. That's incomprehensible to me. But my gateway was Eric Clapton. I could understand. So you find your voice.
Is the Mark Knopfler part, is it kind of like the southbound chicken picking that Mark Knopfler does? Or is it his touch on the Strat that you were pulling from? Was this country playing or more of his other stuff?
No, everything for me in country music is rock based. That's I mean, I talk about stuff that I've listened growing up. I'll find a way to get Led Zeppelin into country music, texturally, not as much composition, but yeah, that was my, like, I felt comfortable emulating. I can't play like Mark Knopfler, but that was closer to my comfort zone than, say, Brent and his, that's just not me. I never listened to that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dan, how do you get, in today's modern guitar technology era, how do you get that perfect, like, 80s chorusing guitar sound that everybody loves and everybody wants to get, that Strat sound? How do you get it today? Because I was listening back when you were doing the Vertex videos and you were playing, it was like, oh, that's the tone. That's the tone that we're all trying to get from the 80s, of that clean chorusing sound. How are you getting it today?
Well, today, I get it mostly in the box. But I think, like on this pedal board, okay?
Yeah.
This is not meant to be, we were talking about, I got this so that I could
do a Tony Brown
30
session.
Years later, do a Tony Brown session, which is my first one that I've done in probably 25 years for somebody else. But like this guitar, first of all, and the same thing with the remake of this on the Tyler guitars, there's something that I didn't know when they were constructing this guitar. There's a mid boost, which, there's nothing really on there, right? But a little reverb, right? So you hear this, you turn up the mid boost, you can hear the gain.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, so you play I'm on the middle pickup, right? Which is not traditionally a solo sound, right? It just pings, right? Because I'm on the clean setting. You're on the humbucker, the difference between. It's like it's an overdrive is what it is, or a preamp, overdrive. But what I didn't realize is when you're on these clean pickups, with that in there, boy, this guitar's not in tune, but you hear that little bit of just ting, ping on the top of it.
Yeah.
It's because that mid-range
the
circuit.
mid-boost.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was part of it. So in the 80s, it was a combination of a bunch of delays everywhere and two choruses simultaneously.
Yeah.
So nowadays,
If you want a tune too, you can tune if you want a tune.
well, I mean, just for our purposes. Otherwise,
Yeah. Those are the only purposes that matter. Our purposes.
There you go. So, basic. Yeah, so a chorus pedal here. This is, I just have a TC chorus pedal on here, right? So you get, a lot of it's in this guitar too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just hear it like, you can kind of hear it through the door, but then.
How do you recreate that mid boost though with an EQ? Like
No. Now that's a exaggerated vibrato. It's basically two forms of modulation. On those Vertex videos, I think I was using whatever mod of a boss chorus, and then another chorus. I think there was one called air chorus. If I was doing it post, I would use a tri-stereo and a Dimension D. And so, I mean, it's still just choruses. So it's just a matter
you need two choruses going into each other
to get kind of that sound. And that was the sound that paid for a lot of my kids' schooling, you know. And everybody used it. As a matter of fact, we just did another one of those. And Mason had me do, you know, I think it was like 4 songs. And it was like all the same tone. But that's what everybody wanted. It's kind of embarrassing now because, like, did I not have any more sonic creativity? Well, when everybody's saying, no, do that thing, because it was on a lot of hits, you know, that's the other side. Yeah, that was my.
So how would you get today live though? If you're in a live setting, how would you get that
two
sound?
choruses, like
2 chorus pedals.
Well, let's see, but
going into each other.
There's got to be one. Let's see where there's a chorus on this. There it is. There's a dimension, right?
That sounds almost like. Is that it? Is that the sound? That sounds kind of heavy, right? That is kind of it. Yeah.
It's totally it, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, your 80s.
Oh yes, yeah.
You know, it's like, that was the little ting ting ting.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You know, those kind of things, or yeah.
Oh.
No, that's not the exact sound. I mean, what I would do is just deal with, probably if I was doing it right now, I'd probably pull the depth on that one down. That's closer. It's close. I mean, it's basically 2 choruses.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, the best one would be a tri-stereo and a Dimension D. That would be it. But you got to use your ears. But I mean, you play in the box, right? You get your computer out.
Yeah.
The tones, it's
they're already there for you.
Well,
but it's live. I do the same thing where I have 2 choruses live.
Right.
I have a JHS 3 series, and then I pull a chorus in my HX Stomp.
Right.
But it doesn't quite line up the way I want it. I mean, it gets really close, but I always feel like it's not quite the way I want it to get.
And delay, I mean, you know, to be fair, that's the delay is hardly on.
Yeah.
Then it's that plus, you know, setting the delays so that the delays then also recirculate that
kind of smear the right way, right?
It's all about that.
Yeah.
And it's just ingredients, you know, like, you know, yeah, you got a teaspoon of salt, but throw a pinch, you know, and use your ears. Like on those, you saw those videos, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like the same thing, right?
Oh yeah, those videos sound incredible.
Well, it's I mean, because it's the same parts. You know the song, so you've already forgiven a lot of stuff. But if I had been doing it now, somebody would send that to me. Like I have a few friends that have asked me to kind of help on their 80s records because a lot of people like that sound now, right? And so I don't have the racks anymore, so I just do it in here, and there's no difference. But I would say that the components in this guitar help a certain aspect of that sound, which is the top end. That's all it is.
Yeah. Dan, is there a song or a part in like a massive hit that you are particularly proud of, or that you love, or every time you hear it and you go, "Oh my God, that was a great part that I played right there"?
No.
No, what do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, that's kind of on the spot. I don't know.
I'm trying to get you to play something. I want to hear like something from a record, like
well, here's the thing. Okay. Do you remember when you were 4.5 years old?
Yeah.
And that's not even accurate because it's still not enough time. When I was doing that, I mean, to be fair, Mason had me do, there was a song, Michael Bolton, Soul Provider, which had some cool parts on it.
Yeah.
It was a Michael Jackson song called I Just Can't Stop Loving You. I mean, those songs I did, 35 years ago. So there's no corresponding timeline in your life. That's how long. So is there something like, I don't relate to that stuff. I barely relate to what I played last week. Because sometimes, especially now that I've been working on my music, I'm starting to learn. Now I have to learn all my music because I think I'm going to do a gig.
Oh, yeah. Where are you going to do it?
I'll just do it here in Nashville. Yeah. I mean, like Third and Lindsay or something.
Yeah. You got to let us know because we're going to come out.
Oh, no, that was the Jeff Beck tribute.
No, I'm saying let us know when you do your gig.
Let us. Oh, I thought
we're going to come out.
Oh, you said it got a lot of snow.
No.
Yeah, no, I will. But truth is, no, there's nothing I've done where that I remember what I did or how I did it. I mean, you could play a song and you could say how I do that, and I would sit there and fumble around. If it seemed obvious, I would figure it out.
Yeah.
But no, I mean,
Okay, let me ask you this. I want to name a couple of guitar players, and I just want to know like what you would play to sort of capture their vibe. And just kind of what you think their thing is. So, like, you're the biggest Jeff Beck fan. Like, what do you do to try to sound like Jeff Beck, or like, what have you taken away from Jeff Beck's playing from studying it for so long?
Well, again, it's. I've never been a person who I think I found out that maybe something that I thought was a liability. I was not great at learning. Like, I wasn't a good transcriber. So everything I learned from everybody was kind of my idea of what they were doing. But either I can't remember exactly, but I think I had a lot of patience up till the time I didn't. But once I learned the essence of something, then I moved on. So I never played in a cover band. Another good thing. So I never learned people's guitar parts verbatim. So the same thing on Jeff Beck. I don't think I ever learned one Jeff Beck song. Oh, because we've ended as lovers.
Yes. I
love that melody, and that was I used to play that in Giant because I needed a break from singing. So, but I think the essence of Jeff Beck for me is, I mean, now I don't play a lot. I don't play a lot with my fingers. I mean, the beginning of that one song,
Yeah, you gotta play that with your fingers to kind of rake it.
But in playing, Jeff Beck, for me, is the relationship of like if you're in A minor, that. Here's a little Steve Lukather. Remember the.
Yeah.
That was Giant, me covering Steve Lukather. Yeah, it's more of the essence of the way. And then also with. And all touch. That to me, that's not a Jeff. I'm not playing anything that Jeff Beck would ever play probably there. But that's my. I always call it peripheral sensibility. That's me funneling him, what he does, what I love about what he does.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. So, and the same thing, like, okay, Steve Lukather, what I loved about him.
What's the Steve?
They're like, what else? Let me think. I flood the middle lick, but. And then Steve was always. A lot of chromatics. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I got from him.
How would you learn the essence of that, though, without transcribing so much? Would you just fumble around until you would kind of get it?
Just fumble around. I mean, you're like, I don't know. I mean, it's just, you know.
So you would just play what knowledge would you have? You would have the knowledge of what, like the pentatonic boxes and some scales, and you would just fumble until you go.
Let's figure it out.
That's kind of it.
Let's see. So E minor. Yeah, it's a good shape. I would just, that's how he would always climb, right?
Yeah.
And you find, the good news is that you, like, any note is one fret away from the right note. So,
Yeah.
So so some of that, and if you play too much of it, it gets boring because it just sounds like it's just single step.
Yeah.
But you're playing a blues riff. I love that. And that's just right? I mean that's
it.
That's a Steve Lukather thing.
So you're 17 years old in Nashville, sitting in your bedroom. You're just kind of fumbling around. You're trying to figure out what sounds good. That's how you're figuring this stuff out.
Yes, and to add to that too, I think like there's a lick at the end of Colorado Creepin. I don't know if you heard that solo at the end of that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool lick. But it's like my dad was an orchestrator. So when I hear violin runs, I always love the way those things would sweep up. And it wasn't, you know.
Play the lick. Do you remember the lick?
Well, let's see. I think it was that something like that, and then cut what? Let's see. At that point, I can't remember, but it's something like that where probably that. But like a violin player is not gonna. Well, they don't have a pick, so there's slurring, right?
Yes, yeah.
That appeals to me. And
Yes.
so when I hear guitar, whenever I hear something that's exciting, if it has that kind of, and you can't define every note, especially in a string section, because they're not all playing exactly the same note.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep.
But see, even right there, I mean, yeah, I'm fumbling, and it would take me a second to figure exactly what it is, and then I'd play it. You know, I mean, the idea is you practice and you search for things. Like for me, allowing my fingers to flub some stuff. Like I would have never. What was that part of the there was something. There's a B flat. You know, it's just I don't know exactly what that is, but it feels right. And of course, when you play it at speed, which sometimes you got to play a couple times to get right,
Yeah.
it has that emotion. That's what excites me. You know, again, I'm not advocating illiteracy in music. I was the son of two musicians who had perfect pitch. My mother can read. I used to call it fly shit when I'd see it in the studio. I mean, I'm not a good sight reader. Never was, because I didn't gravitate towards the guitar because of it. So you just figure out what you like. That's what it is. Figure out what you like, and then how do you articulate it? And it's, you know, in my case, it's a lot of hit and miss, and then you find it and you go, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Like by the time, here's the deal. By the time I do whatever show, just a little party for my friends and play all this material, I will have learned every song. I have learned basically what the solos were about, and then I probably won't play anything exact because I'll have forgotten by then. But I'll have it close enough to where I can articulate that, and then I'll just go out there and whatever, however the spirit moves that night, it'll inform me how to play. It's like a live show, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of what we were talking about. There's a responsibility. I'm not going to just jam. I want to play what if somebody came out, they want to hear something that resembles what they've heard, if they're interested in it. And then I'll leave a little bit up to that mystery, and we'll see. I'll probably flub some stuff and say fuck it, and that's it.
We'll be there. We're wrapping up with Dann Huff. Paul, any questions for Dan?
I know you said that you gotta
Yeah.
looking at your licks, you gotta looking at before.
Yeah.
Paul's asking about the solo in Thunder and Lightning.
I don't even remember the song, Paul.
How much time do you have a minute?
I mean, I remember this.
Can we hear it? Do you have the
Yeah, and and
pull it up on your phone for 1 second?
I mean, I haven't listened to that song. Oh, I take it back. My grandkids found that song, and they play it in the car. So the first time I've heard it since I played it live last would have been 1991. So you guys, when you discover, I know what it is. You discover something, and then you think, oh yeah, that's part of your life. That's so not a part of my life. It's like it doesn't even exist.
Yeah,
I know, but I'd love to hear the solo, and I can tell you this, I'll learn it. No, something close, probably. That's
that it?
That's not it, but I mean it's that's it. No. Yeah, it's probably got to be something along that. Something like that. I mean, the other day I learned something that I did. I took my phone, put it up to a microphone, and recorded it, and then played it in half speed.
Yeah.
But no, that's not it. It sounds like. Nope, I have no idea.
There you go.
But that, what that would do? That would lead me like I could figure it out, and if you want me to, I'll figure it out sometime, and I'll just send it to you. I'll slow because I, honest to God, can't hear that fast.
You gotta slow it down to
figure out. I mean, I can kind of hear. I knew it went up to the B, but I don't know. I mean, but what I like about that right there, like if that wasn't, well, no, it's me another lifetime ago. Like that gets me thinking about something. Like, and so in other words, that would lead me to do something not quite that, but those intervals are interesting to me. It sounds kind of cool, So you get an idea, but it's not going to be this. It's not going to be as if someone notated with tablature and stuff like that. Now, I can tell you this because I had to figure out something the other day from this. I was saying for another podcast who somebody asked me specifically, and I said I'll learn it, and it took me like. I didn't have to slow this one down, but it took me a minute because, your mindset, like you would, you don't remember when you were 12 playing, right? Exactly. But that would be the equivalent or close to. So that's who you were at that one point. But there's something about that that's really interesting. I don't know any guitar player that remembers everything they ever did. I mean, if you ask other people to do it and they can remember it?
Sometimes, yes, but sometimes it's something they're playing live all the time. So then that's why they know it, I think.
Yeah. Last time I would have played that, this is the funny thing, the last time I would have played that solo, in Giant, I would try to keep, things fairly close. So the last time I would have played that lick would have been, let's say the latest would have been 1992. So what is that, 23 years?
It's over 20.
No, it's 33 years.
Over 33 years.
Yeah, give or take a decade, right? So 33 years ago, older than you've existed.
That was yeah.
That's it. Yeah, you weren't even a sparkle in your dad's eye at that point.
Not even, yeah.
And but I do like the question because, and I'll tell you this because this happened the other day. It'll find its way into something that I'm doing. It just will,
Dan, I want to end with this. We're wrapping up. When I hear people like you and Lukather and people like you guys do like eighth note, single note, muted rhythms, or even earlier when you were playing with the chorus and you were doing these chords, they always sit perfectly. How do you think about time relative to stuff like that? Are you thinking behind the beat, ahead of the beat, on top of the beat? Is it a combination of it? How do you make those parts? Like when people like you do it, you go, oh, there's a session guy. It just sounds perfect. How do you accomplish that?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I again, it was emulating what I heard in Ray Parker, Paul Jackson Jr., Steve. All those players. If you're the way I think of it, I mean, I always like to sit. I mean, if we're looking at a Pro Tool screen now, because I didn't have that, right? Music's going this way, right? The kick drum hits. So I want me. If it's going this way, I want me to be right there. I want to be part of that kick drum, but I don't want to be on the front side of it. I don't even want to be out in front of it. I want to be just slightly after it strikes, or the bass or the other instruments. Because number one, that's how you're going to be heard. If like a lot of people just quantize music, and when everything's hitting at the exact time, you don't hear everything, especially if the kick drum's loud, right? So for me, the sound always comes by playing slightly behind. Now, when you accent something, I mean, you again, you can go in front of it. So that's the musical side, and you just have to, if you're singing or playing a solo, you're not thinking in terms of time. But if you analyze it, for me, the kick drum, the snare drum, if you want something to sound big where you don't have to turn up that snare drum, because the same thing, the bass, everybody sits kind of in relationship to that. Hopefully not in front of it. But even there's some utility to that too. If you're playing a skank part, there's no rule on any of that. It ultimately comes back to your ear. But that's how I would think about it. Now, how to articulate that, you just practice.
So when you were in the studio playing those parts, are you thinking behind the beat, or would you just feel it and it would come natural?
Well, a lot of times if you're tracking, I mean, I would always try to sit in the sight line of the drummer, because there's something about being able to see, when I see that snare coming down, even if it wasn't like, I'm not looking at them, but I just had a sense of it. I'm hearing the drums, if there's a click, everything. I'm actively thinking one thing: I don't want to play in front. But if you play too far behind,
that's not it either.
No, this is what I love about music. All the intangibles. We can go to school, we can learn, we can talk about all these things as if they're static, but then the second you get into the real-time situation, you're playing on your gig, right? Everything changes. The crowd, the energy, and you have to be able to somehow take all of that, remove it just a little bit, and react to what's going on. So sometimes playing ahead of the beat is totally acceptable, is what you want to do. If you're Eddie Van Halen, your guitar's louder than the band. And so you're driving the band. So maybe the drum's playing a little bit behind you. There is no one set way to do it. Those little like, those little perky kind of parts, those always sounded better behind. That was it. That was my thinking. And it worked apparently, but I didn't have that discussion with anybody. You just kind of listen to something, and then you like we were just talking about, like Steve, how he's influenced the way I think about guitar parts, but I didn't want to be exactly that. Number one, I couldn't. His fingers are different from mine. We all play differently, and it's vice versa. We don't. If we all sounded the same, how boring would that be?
Yeah.
So it's personality. Educate, let go of it. Educate, let go of it.
Dann Huff, the new record. When's it coming out?
I believe it's coming out on Baked Alaska Records.
Yeah.
Which is, I love that name. It's either the end of May, because today I'm actually getting the vinyl pressing. So it's kind of cool. They're releasing vinyl and CD, and the art was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So again, that's just something fun. For people that would be interested in what I do, this will give them a little something more than just like a digital download, kind of in person, either end of May or beginning of June.
When words aren't enough, this is a great record. You got Stuart Duncan on it playing fiddle. You've got Paul Franklin on it playing steel,
which you'd never put with these songs, but that they were. I didn't do the guitar thing on this one just because it's just 10 songs. I wanted to establish maybe to myself who I was, and if I do another thing, probably I'll have some collaborators, play along on.
I would love to see you do a record where every song you have another session guy on every song. You get one, you do one with Tom, you do one with Rob, you do one with Danny, whatever, like, you know, with Danny Radar. Like, that would be an incredible record. You and someone else on every song.
If it comes up, I mean, again, this is a new experience. I mean, it's like I'm going to finish, you know, talking about this record, put out there, see if anybody's interested. And if they're
people are going to want this record.
I mean,
I'm telling you,
I like it. So
this is a great record. When words aren't enough,
should be in radio.
You know, what do you think this is? This is that.
Yeah.
Dann Huff, thank you so much for bringing us into your studio for the second time. We're wrapping up. Did we leave anything out? Has anything been unsaid?
No.
Now's the chance.
Sorry,
play
but
us out with something. Can you just play us out with anything? Anything. Even a noodle. Everyone loves to see you noodle.
Isn't that funny? Noodle. If I were sitting, waking up this morning.
Yeah.
I feel C minor is the
C.
I didn't like that. That was
Do it again. Well, that was great. Do it again.
That was B flat. I'll give you that.
We had the first time. That was it. Dan, dude, you're the best.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you next time. Rapping with Dann Huff. Cut it.
But I haven't, you know, it's like I haven't played them until now. Like there's this lick on I'll See You in My Dream. And it's up here. I didn't play it on this guitar because I don't have that fret. There's something in there. That's what the lick is. But that kind of sounds like a string thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the...
You had great string.
That's just a scale, really, but it doesn't...
Everything's trying to get as much
No, they're... Oh, it's all up and down. I mean, it's all up and... Yeah, I don't think I do it the same every time. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. What's that look you had me do? That's actually not easy right there. Because there's hammers in it. And it's also... If done right, it sounds like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't really... I just like it when it sounds like a string player.
Yeah.
So those licks are not... What I found out on that I'll See You in My Dream licks down low. Of course, it was set up with some really good... Like the... see what's... Is it... I probably went... That's it. And then up an octave. See the way that kind of... my dad would... That'd be called an accelerando. And when I was up here, I hit the D. bend up to the E, and then I bend it to the F sharp.
Yeah.
That was the 9 strings. Because when I heard that, I can do it on that guitar because I got the frets.
Oh, yeah.
But when I get to that note, I could do it here. That's hard as hell to do with a 10. On that string. It's like I can't do it. But that's kind of how I just figured. See, I don't have that 100%. Anyway, I just figure out, and then once you get it, then it becomes muscle memory. But here's another thing. We didn't talk about this, but it's like what I've been interested in my interest in the last couple decades has been none of that. So I'm just now starting to actually implement it in what I'm doing. Did you here's the lick. Check this out.
Yeah.
You got 2 seconds?
Yeah.
But this is the lick that I'm really glad I have it, and I am gonna nail it. I nailed it one time, so that was Colorado Creepin. I freaking love this lick. I mean, if there's a lick that I would say I'd like to have on my tombstone,
Notate it out, etched in stone.
it's just he
Is
played
this
this.
lick?
He played this. But it's the setup. Pretty simple. Right? Whatever that. This one right here.
Great.
That's badass, right?
That's great.
I even like that. I mean, it's like, but so. That feels good to hit that.
That's a great
Can you
lick.
put that in the interview?
We're still recording. We got it. Do
You
it
got
again.
it.
Do it. Can you do it slowly? Yeah. We got
You
it.
got it good. Okay, that's,
got it.
Oh, that felt good.
That was incredible.
So- That's what it is. Now, slow. That wasn't exact, but it's like when you play it slow, I can't think of it the same way. But when you play it fast, I'm not gonna play it again because I got it right.
You got it. We're
You got to
done.
put that. You got to promise to put that in the video.
Dan,
'cause
we're gonna put it in. I promise.
I'm so happy that I can play it. That was
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah, but that's the goal. So like once you play it, I'll sit there and play it the rest of the day today.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Sherry. You're gonna hear a door. Oh no, you shut that door downstairs, right? Good, because usually if I forget it, you'll hear. Goosh. No, that's the type of thing. Like those kind of licks, I think are cool. Now, if I heard that all day long, I'd be bored as hell.
Yeah, but when you throw them in,
Well, with the solo and all the tension, the stuff that I like, pretty much that whole solo was like a take or 2 takes. But the last lick, I think I had original last lick that just didn't kill me. And I hadn't recorded one that killed me. So I actually just punched that lick in. I just thought, well, because I didn't think the song was that big of a deal or anything. I had it like at number 8 or number 9 on the record. My guy who makes it, he said, no, you should put this first because it kind of gives you an idea of the record. And I thought, well, I need a better solo ending. So I just thought about it, and then I probably came up with a shape, and then I played it. I probably played it once that was pretty close, and then maybe got it one more time, and the rest of it I probably tried to play it cleaner, and I never got it cleaner. So that's what
that's
you
the
get.
take. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like it,
So good.
Yeah.
Dan, I hope we get to do this even again. We could talk forever. So thank you for taking the time.
It's, you like the shredding, so the next time I'm going to practice for 3 days before it.
We'll do it.
And
We'll
I'll
do
have
it.
my-
You're a regular on the show. It's the
I'll have it together, man.
Dan, thank you.
Got it, bud.
Oh man. Whew.